This is Geometry Notes 10-1 for naming arcs and central angles. Let's start with some vocabulary. So if you are dealing with a circle, you probably remember the name of this piece right here. It's known as the diameter. Let's go ahead and write that down. This piece right here is the diameter. It's important to note that the diameter always goes through the center of the circle. If the diameter, or if you had like this length that went right over here, which looks like the diameter, that doesn't go through the center, it would not be a diameter. It would be something like this length right here. That is known in the business of geometers as a chord, a C-H-O-R-D, a chord. And again, if you have like this half length coming out right here, this is known as the radius. It's pretty self-explanatory, but this is the center of the circle, so you can say that that is the center here. Whenever you have a dot labeled and it's roughly in the center, you always assume that that is the center. And then you have this curvy piece right here. So if you have a curvy piece on the outside, think of it like if you have a slice of pizza, right? It's the crust of the pizza, just that outside. That's what's known as the arc. Excellent. So we have some vocab out of the way. You also have what's known as a central angle. So if you have a center right here and then you have an angle going through that center, then it is a central angle. I can label that as well. This thing right here, there's a central angle. And it's kind of confusing, right? Because normally you can say, okay, the central angle is this angle right here. But if I say, and I'll come down here and do an example. If I say angle A, B, C. And by the way, you could have just said angle B because these are the same thing. ABC is a little bit more descriptive, but it's very clear if I just use one letter that's here. Okay, you're talking about that, this angle right here, right? Am I talking about this angle? Because it goes from A, B to C, so therefore it goes like that. Am I talking about that angle on this inside, or am I talking about the big angle? Because technically an angle can be over 180 degrees. You could have this angle right here. That's the same angle. How would I identify that angle? Well, it goes from A to, I guess it goes to the center B, and then it goes all the way around here to C. So it's still A, B, C. You kind of have to be careful about what angle you're talking about. There's not a good way to describe a minor angle, the small angle. By the way, if I say minor, you assume that one to be small. If I say major, you assume that one to be big for our vocab words, right? So the minor angle and the major angle are the exact same thing. It's angle ABC, angle ABC. You can't really distinguish aside from using the words minor versus major. However, for arcs, if I'm talking about this piece of the crust of the pizza, it's really easy to see in the notation if it's a minor arc versus a major arc. So for example, if I want a minor arc, notice I have two letters here. It goes from A to C. So I have two letters for a minor arc. And if I want to do this major arc around here, usually you have to have some other point on this circumference or this outer part of the circle. And you can say I go from A first to D, so going all the way to D, and then continue on your way to C. So a major arc will always have three letters and a minor arc will always have two letters. So this is where it's worth talking about the difference between I guess the number of letters that are in these, right? So let me say this. I can say that angles will always have one or two, I shouldn't say one or three, there you go, one or three letters. You can see I have one there, I have three there. I'm talking about the same angle. But arcs, we'll do a different color for arcs. Arcs will always have two or three letters. So you'll either have a minor arc with two letters or a major arc with three letters. And these are actually different things. So it's worthwhile pointing out that these are different. This one is a minor arc, and this one is a major arc. I can't spell apparently. Major arc. So there is a distinction. Whereas 1 and 3, these are the same thing. It doesn't really matter. These two are really important that you get them correct. All right, so let's try some example problems where you can identify what things are talking about. So if I'm talking about the arc, that refers to the central angle. Notice that this has an angle symbol. So it's the angle AQB, A to Q to B. So I'm talking about this angle, or you could be talking about that angle. It's unclear, but I know that I go from A to Q, then to B. what is the arc? And if you assume that it's if it doesn't say anything, you assume that it's going to be a minor arc. Remember, minor arc is a word meaning the small arc. So don't assume it's this big one from A to B, because A has to end at B. You assume it's the smallest one from here to here. So you're going to say, oh, this one is equal to, this is arc A, B. And I did forget to mention it, but you have this little arc symbol. It is supposed to be a curvy line, not a straight line. A straight line indicates that it is a line segment. Line with arrows means it's a line. If it's a line with one arrow, it's a ray. If it's this curvy line that has no arrows on it, you assume it is an arc. Again, this angle over here, this is an angle symbol. So we can say it's going to be arc AB. So I put a little curvy line above it, and now this is read as arc AB. And you assume this is a minor arc because there are 2 letters. But for a major arc, let's talk about a different one. It goes from A to Q to D. So from A to Q to D. So it's talking about this central angle here. And I don't know if it's talking about the big one or the small one. I don't know if it's the minor or major angle. But this is the angle that I'm looking at. And if I want to do the major arc, I'm not talking about this small one in between here. That's a no, right? I want to go the big way around from here to here. So usually I want to start at A and end at D. So I know that my arc is going to be A something D. And you have to have any letter that you want in between here that's on its path. So from A to D, I can write a letter B. That would be fine. I can write a letter C. That would be fine. Just one of these 2 letters needs to be written. So I'm going to go ahead and just randomly choose B and do my little arc symbol. And now this is a major arc because I have 3 letters. With example 2, let's go ahead and name an angle. We're going backwards. Now we have an arc being given to us, and we need to find the central angle that it's referring to. And there's no really way that you can get this wrong. I guess the only way that you could get this wrong is by saying, well, this is angle Q. I mean, you're kind of right, but is that angle Q? Is that angle Q? Is that angle Q? Is that angle Q? What's angle Q? It's unclear. So you have to have 3 letters when it's confusing. So let's go ahead and do 3 letters here. I know that it has to start at A and end at E, so I can go ahead and say, okay, it's going to be, you have to have this angle, I was going to say indicator, this angle symbol. So it's the angle, and it goes from A to something to E, and that something that goes in this center is always the center of the circle for your angle. So it's always going to be Q in this case. So A, Q, E, and there's our angle, and it makes sense, right? So this major arc A, B, E, A to B, and then all the way to E. It's talking about that major arc there, which refers to this central angle, and you have to start at A, then Q, then E. So A, then Q, then E. So we got it correct. DC is a minor arc, so we can say DC is this arc right here. And again, it's going to start at D, end at C. So we're going to write the angle symbol, angle, and it's going to start at D, it's going to end at C, but we always need 3 letters for this angle because we don't want to be confused by just calling angle Q. Q is going to go in the center over here. It's going to be angle D, capital Q, then C. I don't know why I randomly said capital there, but it is DQC. Cool, so it's pretty straightforward for the first lesson, just making sure that we get our angles correct with 3 letters, making sure we get our symbols correct, making sure we have our notation correct. That's kind of where we're starting today with some vocabulary. Then we'll move on to something a little bit more tricky. And just for the notes, I'm noticing that arc is pretty self-explanatory, but I want to go ahead and make this thing look really nice. So let's go ahead and add some highlighting and make this, oh yeah, now that looks really, really nice. Cool, that concludes lesson 10-1. Thanks for watching.